So once again, it seems to be coming out at meetings such as this, online, accusations, behind the scenes deals, things are getting passed like where somebody leaves or this and that. I have seen none of that. I know a lot of you folks here, and although I may not agree with all your viewpoints, I'm certainly going to agree with everything. I personally take offense that there's all this bad things going on and led by, I mean, the names that have been thrown out, done things, you know, Kathy, Sykes, Tony Kernan, my friend, Carol, all of you have been put to task as though you're doing behind the scenes dictators, and I don't believe that's true. I don't, and like I said, I don't agree with all your decisions, but I don't believe that's happening. And if there is proof that there's malfeasance going, let's get it out there. And let's get somebody else in the seat, but that's good proof. And last but not least, everybody doesn't have time to attend these meetings, they look online. That's why we elect people to come in and run our business, or run our township. And there's people at home on both sides of the issue who can't come. Consequently, they voted folks in. And I guess I don't look at myself, I'm speaking for my wife and myself, but I don't look at myself as speaking for anybody here besides the two of us. But I know that in a number of other meetings here, various public members have spoken up as they were speaking why we all moved here. And I would really appreciate it if the public maintains their comments, that it's their opinion, and doesn't speak for them. So thank you for doing what you do. Appreciate the time, and so only for some things you have to go through. Yes,
Thank you. More public comments. Yes, Patrick.
I have a quick question about practices. I know I have on the agenda. Is it proper that I should get a kind of speak at the beginning of my agenda, or depends what I'm going to be voting for the comment?
Yes,
Yes.
that's, I would want to get maybe Rob Paul's guidance on that. And I also have something along the lines to comment on that. And now seems like perhaps a good time, although it might be a little out of line. But when the board gets to the consideration of the Conway Road, I will be abstaining from participation in the matter, since I feel I have a conflict of interest. The conditional rezoning request is from Inlandish Development, which is a company owned by Patrick Ziske. I have a small business with Mr. Ziske called Agricole Farm Stock in downtown Chelsea, involved with selling local produce and locally made items. Because of my business relationship with Mr. Ziske, I don't feel I can be unbiased, and I also want to avoid the appearance of impropriety. Additionally, the Conway Road project could have a farming component, and some of those farm products could potentially be sold at our business. With that being said, when we get to that item on the agenda, I will abstain from participation and ask at that time that the board vote on appointing someone to temporarily chair the meeting regarding that matter. So having said that, I'm sorry to bring that out in public comment. I was going to mention it before we get to the agenda. But I want people to know that it's a good question, Mr. Paul, and whoever is chairing at that time, Patrick will have a few moments to talk about his project then, correct?
Yeah, I mean, when we get to that item, certainly Patrick would have a chance to address the board regarding it.
Was that help?
I'm not sure what Patrick's question right now was, though. It's hard for me to hear the audio.
In that case, that was my question.
Yeah.
In that case, I'll vote by public comment or something else.
Okay. In that case, he's going to devote his public comment to something else.
Okay.
What he was wondering. So.
So I'll try to keep my public comment short. Randy, it's a little bit overlaps with what Mr. Reinhardt said. About some controversial accusations and lack of civility. In conflict. I agree with Dave here that if some of the charges that have been made, including on the two civil forms, I administer, but I don't moderate, I mean, you don't find about it. But, those charges should be, if people make those charges serious, they should be brought forward and discussed at length. As many people know, especially if they read the 370 form, I disagree with what was said recently. Shamelessly. But I also see a need for more dialogue. Maybe amongst the residents. When we started this thing called the 370, we used to actually have meetings. I don't think at that time that group was broken into factions and things like that. I mean, it kind of wasn't. But what we do, when we have in public comment a lot of times, we have people speaking one way, and it might get answered, like in the board comments at the end, right? But we don't get a lot of back and forth and exchange of views of one versus the other. I'm wondering if maybe we should, on an unofficial basis, at least first, start to have just open forums where people can come and meet in person and maybe a video to have that back and forth stuff. And I think kind of people say. I'm kind of wondering if this room would be an appropriate location for that. Even if it's not sponsored by the board. Right? And I understand, of course, if 3 or 4 board members come to something, then it would be an open meeting. That puts it in a different category. But I'm just saying that first. I'd like to explore that idea. And I'm saying it's not just to the board, but to everybody else who's interested. People I agree with and different people disagree. And usually I agree and disagree depending on the issue. That's all real people. That's what I like to report it. In my mind, it would be like third Tuesday of the month, like in between the days. And I second what David said. A serious allegation needs to be treated seriously. Understand some evidence put forward the person needed. Oh, I want one more thing I want to say. I'm sorry, but I didn't get a chance to respond to the note I'm saying. I did identify the person who allegedly made some inappropriate comments, including comments about Indians. And I thought that person's name was probably not. I went back to my notes in August when Amanda the third mentioned the overheard conversation, and I realized that no, he actually did not name the person. So I was probably wrong in naming this person. And to be honest, I can't even say that I'm 100% sure that I know it. I think everybody does know it, right? So I want to say that. I apologize if I did something wrong in naming the person. Thank you.
Yes, my name's Sarah Leslie, and I was at the December 6th meeting, and there were a lot of therapies going on. I felt that the board did the best job trying to keep things on, following the rules as it is understood. I think it's a very tough job that you do, and I respect the people run for election to do this job. And I think we need to remember that there is an attorney involved who gives advice, and we need to listen to their advice, we can improve. So.
Scott, did I skip over you there? I'm sorry.
I just have a quick question for Mr. Shaw, but he's still on board listing. Pertains to Patrick's question and your refusal. Mr. Shaw, because I think there needs to possibly another refusal, and that would be from the planning commission, a board member representing the planning commission and the board. Ms. Schultz, that she has to recuse herself from the board vote as she already voted within the planning commission and is not allowed to vote.
Mr. Thal, were you able to hear that? Someone from.
Yeah. Does the board want me to address that?
Yes,
Well, that's
Okay,
public.
well, I'd like you to address it one way or another, whether it's true or not.
Yes, the question of the board, I don't have a problem with you address that, Mr. Thal. Mr. Board,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
do you want me to answer?
I'm the only one who said yes or no so far,
Yes.
but yes, I would say. Yes.
Yeah.
So what's before the board today is a rezoning request. And that's a legislative function. Zoning and rezoning is a legislative function. And even though she's on the planning commission, she's still, and you're required to have her on the planning commission or required to have representation on the planning commission. That person is not disqualified from voting on zoning and rezoning matters because those are legislative functions. They're not quasi judicial. If it was a judicial matter, so the times when a planning commissioner or zoning board of appeals member has to recuse themselves, if they're hearing something that is of a quasi judicial standpoint. So say it was a special land use at the planning commission, and then the special land use comes to the township board. Under that function, if they're overseeing the planning commission special land use, then you would have to recuse yourself because that's a quasi judicial decision. Zoning is not, so she does not have to recuse herself.
Thank you.
So there is a time that a board member would be required to recuse themselves if they have voted on it on their individual board. And the only way they can vote on it as a board member at a board meeting like tonight would be to recuse themselves from the individual board in which they sit.
I know tonight Sandy doesn't have to recuse herself. It sounds like there is an instance in which someone would do that. But I don't know how much time we want to dwell in circumstances that make that kind of out. So is there any other public comment? Yes.
Hi, Renee Townsend, Chairman, President. Likely my letter and concern form is all out here. Basically, we summarize the December 6th meeting, and what we saw and what we felt was the optics of certain things just weren't good. Comments I'm going to go over tonight are just a couple of things from me. Regarding the staff person that called reference and reached out to a real estate agent. It was never answered at that meeting. It was called a personnel issue that was going to be resolved and didn't really need to be dealt with residents. I have requested a review and that email. But whoever this person is doing and being involved with the master number. That does impact the residents. And then somebody that has a development agenda or animosity to the residents. Working on what is the future of our township does not seem like. The other situation that is very bothersome in the meeting was the planning commission. I don't know Dan Russell other than he's been at a lot of meetings and seems to know his stuff. He brought forth a different candidates to him. And he knows me wonderful. I don't know him either. I've not seen him at anything, but he might be great. He called it a timing thing when everybody was asking about it, I'm not doing it. But back in July, when we came to Portland Keller, we were asked about Dan Russell, and he said, there is another opening for the site students, even what that is. So the timing thing doesn't seem like it's actually perhaps. But the most disturbing thing about that to me was that he stopped, that's when he stopped the for discussion. My brother's here about right in the middle of discussion, I never seen him. So just some disappointing things, and I'm just hoping that going forward we can all do better. The optics that things don't look good, and then it makes people not trust what is happening. So I think we do better.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Scott?
I have a different sort of take on different. One of the things that surprised me, I think, said that maybe after my time was the values. Couple things came out that I couldn't use every time for the problem. One, after I complained about the capital improvement plan, you immediately broke into discussion on trying to finance the noise in the basement. You couldn't find the money and didn't know what the hell you're gonna do. Yet today on the agenda is nothing about incorporating a capital improvement plan when your hired outside people have recommended it for 2 years past. Could you please pass? Number one. Number two. And it's the bigger thing. I was shocked at the elucidation and whatever, that an amendment was proposed that Mr. Paul assisted in drafting on behalf of the board, in which our supervisor authorized, which she said, I guess I did. I find that very troubling because it is that type of attitude doing voluntarily and solely that got us into trouble 10 years ago with 4.4 mils and where we are now is going off road and telling the lawyer to do things that we are not legally able to do. You should be reprimanded for that, held responsible for that in a public forum. This should be part of the official minutes. You should be reprimanded for that. And Mr. Thal, if he did it because you authorized him, he was aware and made comments that there should have been an open hearing. You didn't hear the hearing. So for him to do it, knowing that there was no meeting, knowing that there was no open meeting, knowing that the board did not instruct him to do it, and then he did it. I'm sorry to say that Mr. Thal should be fired. That's totally illegal. He should be fired. You could have gotten us into a lot of trouble. Mr. Thal then also proceeded to make comments on the tape saying, well, we could be on the ropes like that. Okay. And he did it with the fellow from his subdivision sitting right here. Wow. You don't make those comments in public. You make those comments in a closed situation. He did not call for that. He should be fired. Okay, I don't know him, could be a nice guy, but those are two big screw-ups. Now, the other thing, going back to Patrick, mentioning Carol, because it came out in a couple of emails today, so it's already been mentioned, I'm gonna run with it. Y'all know she's been a problem for years. There's legal issues involving Carol for years. This board, this is not student council, you are not all sitting on the student council. And Kathleen, you are the CEO of this situation, you're the supervisor. You need to take hold of this situation. We don't do the best vote because somebody's a best friend, because you this is preference. Thank you for refusing yourself. But this is not student council. This is, you guys are still continuing to vote because somebody's the best friend. And we don't want to upset each other. That's not the way this works. When you come into that room, when you look at elected to an office, you take off your political bias hat. And you're supposed to be here for all of us. And guess what? There's 4 people here tonight. But there's another 3,488 that can't come to this meeting or aren't coming to the meeting. They need to be represented. And what you 5 do should be on the behalf of all of them, not just any 1 or 2 or 3 here that are watching you and rooting for you. You have to stand up and start doing what's right for the other 3,488 that don't get to see this. This board for the last number of years that you've been on it also, and I brought it up. You know, what does the board do? You take care of our budget, you take care of zoning, and master plan, and you take care of roads. That's pretty much where our taxes go, pretty much what you do. You know, you get it. In the last 4 or 5 years on budget, you get a D plus. There's still no capital improvement plan, which I noticed earlier. It's the water and sewer items, it's still open, cleaning, maintenance and all that. There's many items that are put out to private companies regarding that, what's our pressure rate, what's this, who can we survive? You guys been going over that for 6 years, you still don't have it down pat. Get it done. Get it done once and for all, get it done that. Zoning and the master plan, you haven't moved on that. You haven't moved that ball down the field as far as master plan, that's been known for a couple of years. You haven't moved on it at all. You get a fee on that too. The master plan, Carlisle won't work. They won't work with you because of Carol. I know that for a fact. I brought it up at the last meeting. They won't work for you because of Carol. They do not want to work with her. She is taken. If you want to keep her fine, she deserves to have a reprimand letter or something in her file and or be fired. She is a out of contract employee. Third thing is roads that you do. You get a D on that thing. You know I'm passionate about the roads. Now, small thing that nobody knows, we're not required to do anything about the roads. It's the county's problem. But if you think they're really gonna do anything as short of money as they are, so guess what? Just like everybody else, step up, allocate money for our roads and get it done. Because we're sitting at the bottom of the 13 or 14 townships out there that get their work done. And if we contribute more and take some of that burden off the county, do you think maybe when they have extra money, guess who they might come to? The people that help them the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Mr. People, I just can imagine. Like, not familiar with all of that, we said it's on this. I remember when you were up there. Somebody had spoken to me that when you were up there.
They did. They did. The board members did.
I remember when you were in Kathy's friends.
They did. Remember when I took care of the past? They did. Other members of the.
And I don't know how that was a problem all this time. Was it, were you able to do something about it when you were?
I tried, they got,
That's okay, thank you, Mary. Yes, so it's unusual, for me to respond after public comment, but I think we have the option, I think the board members have the option, and I just want to say that there is not a point in time where I authorized or I said, this needs to go, this Westchester discussion has been happening for years. They're moving along, they want to move along with, their phases, and we said, we need to make sure that our records are right, that we reflect what you have going on out there. So this was the discussion that came forward. This was the amendment to the consent agenda. Now, what they brought forward, as we said at the last meeting, is the first time the board has seen this. This is not as though, and I'm not the CEO. That's not how public service works. There's not a CEO here. We are all 5 equal board members who vote on things. So that's a misnomer. And I'm not here directing things, but I'm not here directing this, but it's not a CEO situation. The only thing as supervisor I do is the budget and chair the meetings and have the assessment. So that's the extent of my duties as supervisor. So I just want to say that. I know it sounds really inflammatory. It's hard not to respond to these. I just want to say that that is not a situation that came about. Would the board like to? Yes, okay.
I said, you like the CEO, you are the supervisor, it's up to the supervisor, to move the board.
We're moving the board now onto the consent agenda, which includes the minutes, presentation of bills, correspondence, committee board reports. I had some questions about the minutes. They were quite lengthy. It was a long meeting. And also, so, and I've talked a little bit about this before. I think maybe, we need to determine, I think the board determines the method we want the minutes. Is this, it can be difficult to make sure that everything is caught in the minutes. If we're going to include, be as verbose as possible and include as much as we can, it's difficult because there's going to be something left out. And I know I saw a couple of things that I thought were left out and thought were maybe not. I would want to almost go back to the recording and see if that's exactly the way something was said. So I know on page 3, last time at public comment, Mr. Cooper brought up the CEO comment then, and I meant to address it at the end of the meeting as I did tonight. And I don't see that here, although I do see 4, 5 paragraphs of Mr. Cooper's comments. And so things like that just, it's difficult because we're either putting it all in or we're doing the minimum of what we need to be compliant with Open Meetings Act. So I noticed that that wasn't in there. I saw that there were comments that were missing. Mr. Cooper at the last meeting during the CEO referenced me being a CEO or like a CEO, whatever it was. Yes. On page 6, it says Kennedy she hopes everyone's questions would be answered, or the board would have questions and items would be tabled to move forward in a thoughtful way. And maybe that's what I said, but it feels a little jumbled. I don't know if that's, I would want to hear the recording to see if that's precisely what I said. If this is going to be in the record for perpetuity, then it's important that we have the words precisely right. If we're going to put the words in.
Or can I make a comment? I think that by law, we do not have to include every single word that's said. We're supposed to be recording what action the board wants to take, if we're gonna be spending money on anything. But not what every single person said. That's not the point of the minutes. It's to track the decision-making ability, the decisions that the board has made. We just don't need to have that in such detail. If it's recording, then people can go listen to it. But as far as the official minutes are concerned, I mean, if you go to the Michigan Township Association and look at what they talk about, the things that need to be included in the minutes, it's not every single word.
And not every single word is in there. I do my best to try to capture the intent of what I hear.
Yeah.
But I think the next step for us would be to make sure that we have the recordings online.
Oh, gosh.
And then
yes,
that
yes.
would make this all much easier.
Right.
But I
And
think, we need to have that in place, and that's
Right.
what we're trying to do with
Right.
tell systems.
Right.
And make sure that it's all there.
Well, and
So it
we
can,
Anybody
Yes.
who wants all that detail,
Right.
should be able to go. and
but we don't have that available.
well, and I know we talked about this in the past, and I think some people have said it's as easy as putting like a YouTube channel up, or like some sort of like, there's a way that we can put a connection to our website,
yes.
on our website, to the recording.
Yes.
So I don't think it will be difficult, but this was my goal also as clerk, because you do want to have people and then to be heard to say exactly what they said. And so it's better to go to the recording for those and then have the minutes be saying what Sandy's saying, perhaps to be the, but it's
legal record
important,
of what we decide.
the legal record of what we decided. Because it's just,
So whenever we get everything new, then we'll be able to do a YouTube on our website. of the minutes. That's a great idea. Somebody's working really, really hard to try and capture every single.
Right.
That's hard,
is
especially in
hard.
a long meeting like that, the last one.
And then, on page 10. If you said the layout was one issue, we could pull out, let's see. Yeah. Post said engineering fees get charged back to the developer through trusting agency, and that could, I feel like there was an instance where we talked about that, and it was a question more than a statement, but perhaps that was a question at the other one, is that happening? Right, just one of on page 10, post said engineering fees get back charged, and I thought that was. Right, it was discussed in the work session, right, and so that was the question there. So I think, and then the next paragraph says, Paul asked if the board had read Ted Erickson's recent report from IMEG. Kurt said he had. But there are 4 other people on the board here that I think maybe also said that we had, and so I'm not sure, it looks like Paul asked the board. So was he specifically asking Kurt, or was Kurt literally the only person who said? Who said that they did?
So perhaps it was a nod, but I was writing.
Yeah,
Well, you know, we captured.
And that is sometimes, yeah, where things get difficult. Then also on page 11, with the motion to engage in services to Rebecca Harvey, did I make the motion and then withdraw it, or did we just say we're gonna table that item because we didn't have the documents at the beginning of the meeting? Then a motion by Kennedy to engage in the services, and then motion withdrawn due to not having the reports. So I just don't know, did I make the motion? I believe on that.
Motion. It would have had to been the recording.
Well, it would be in the recording, but I just felt like at the beginning of the meeting that we knew that, because we knew we didn't have things from Rebecca at that time, but it's not. It's inconsequential, but it's, just important that And we didn't move forward with it, so. On page 13, motion by Kennedy to give the supervisor authorization to sign a letter of support for the bike trails, and that doesn't have a support. I'm sure there was one, but.
I can go down and down that, and then that doesn't.
Yeah.
Support.
And then there's just numerous misspellings. I'm sorry. Or sometimes it's right and sometimes it's wrong. Which was it? Edward. Okay. And then my only other thing on the other minutes, the December 20th minutes on page 3. It says posted after the 2016 reliable study. Is that? And I guess I could.
That was the study
listen
that
to
was
it,
from
but
our website.
the study
Yeah,
that
the
was
fear
from
had printed
our-
off on my website.
Oh,
Then
okay.
Carol can brought it to the top.
Okay.
It might have been actually
And-
called reliability study. As I put that.
Okay. Okay.
I would move to approve the consent agenda with those changes or comments added.
All right, we got a motion from Kurt, support by Sandy. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. So now we move to approval of the regular agenda. You have anything to add tonight? Thank you, Rod, moves to approve the regular agenda. Is there support?
I will purple.
Thank you, Kurt, support. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Thank you. No unfinished business tonight. That's surprising. New business, first item is our Citizen of the Year nominations for 2022. I think we had one nomination that I sent to the board. Did everybody get that? Since that was the only nomination, I will move, we will call that person candidate A. I will move that we honor candidate A with the Citizen of the Year for 2022. Motion and support, any discussion? Yep, you got it. Okay, yep, I got me and you, and then no discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Place it in there. Next, approval of Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals meeting calendars. I think there was an error when we did them last time, so we're just running it by everyone again. Yeah, I think a couple of the days where she got Wednesdays and Thursdays mixed up or something. That this looks like this is the calendar we'll go with. I'll make a motion that we approve the Sylvan Township Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals calendars for 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Thank you. Next is the poverty exemption guidelines for 2023. And our assessor Catherine Stoll is attending by Zoom tonight. If the board has any questions for her. The state commission requires each municipality adopt guidelines that set income and asset levels for use in reviewing poverty exemption applications for each tax year. So attached are the recommended guidelines approved by the Board of Review for use in 2020.
I was second.
Motion by Kurt, supported by Rod. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, thank you. Thank you for being available.
That was quick.
Okay, next is the proposal for Rebecca Harvey for the 3 ordinances the board previously outlined. We would like to prioritize. Originally, when she sent it, she put in low residential instead of lake district. So I think everybody should have the corrected version. It didn't change the numbers, it was just a typo on first hand. Yeah, do solar first, okay, and then administrative review. I think that's a good way to shift it.
That'd be wind and solar. It's not just solar. Is it considered that?
I don't know, it's a good question. Yeah, mostly I've heard solar, but that's a good question. Yeah, usually it's
It's not gonna help on this.
not.
Provide an opportunity.
Is that typically done in the same ordinance though?
Yeah, I mean, at the same time,
But it's 2 separate ordinances.
yeah,
Yeah.
different things.
Well, maybe we could, we have authorized, and I think the board, we felt $5,000 for the 3 ordinances was doable and within our budget. It's easy to add wind and it makes sense to do it now. I mean, it's certainly something that Rebecca could advise us on.
Yes.
So, but tonight we have in front of us the scope of a service proposal for the 3, and she breaks down the hourly cost. She has a timeline here and her hourly rate.
I will make the motion to accept Rebecca's proposal and put them down as number 1 solar, number 2 administrative review, and number 3 as
Well, let's start on the solar and see where that goes from there. Right, and the solar is the one that people are really calling about and really, breathing down their necks. Yes, right. Okay, so motion from Rod to authorize to approve the scope of proposal with the prioritization of the ordinances. Is there support? Support. Okay, thank you. Motion by Rod, support by Sandy. Is there any discussion?
On the request form, the boxes where expenses aren't checked. From the seats, yes,
The last,
on our form.
form.
It says when you're.
Oh. Yeah, it does, yes, it does, and yes, we did budget these funds along with the funds for the master plan.
That's all I have.
Yes, thank you. All right, any other discussions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, thank you, motion carries. So now we are to the consideration of the conditional rezoning request. I am abstaining, but I have 2 things to mention. One is, Carol wanted me to mention that there is an error on the board of trustee agenda cover sheet. It says the public hearing for Conway Road was June, but it was in September. So the public hearing was September 22nd, not June. So she wanted to, let us make note of that. And then also, I believe there was a mistake on the something about the acreage, that the acreage, somewhere it said it was 2 point something acres and it's 21.79 acres.
It's actually.
Oh, okay,
21.9.
21.92, okay. I wanted to make sure that we caught both of those errors before we go forward. So now, since we're at this item, then Mr. Thal will just have the board will vote on who's gonna chair the meeting for this portion.
The board should vote on who's going to chair this part of the meeting. And then, what I would do is I would let Patrick then address his conditional rezoning to the board. And then, if you want to go into closed session to discuss my attorney-client memo, somebody could make a motion to do that.
I will make a motion that Kurt chair this portion of the meeting. Brandon? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna want to go into closed session and review. Laptops. Guidance.
Can I, then, Patrick, can be able to address the board?
We can have Patrick do that now. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I'm sure you probably all got the letter that I sent yesterday. I'm not gonna read that, it's kind of long. But, so everybody give me the entire thing. I want to ask one question. Especially, I thought that my attorney was going to be here too, possibly over the but I can't tell. That was Friedman. No. Okay, then you guys join us. I don't give him time. You don't need a time. But if you guys join us over Zoom, would you be able to do that? At some point? That's a process, right? I mean, but I'm just asking just in case. Okay, so I would like to, well, a couple of the highlights from 29 Highland. I guess first of all, it's reintroduce everybody to what the rezoning is. And I do apply for low density residential. But I applied with two very restrictive conditions because. Let me just say, the two conditions were that the number of residential units would be capped at 12. Which is a lot less than what low density residential would ordinarily give. Being a 21 acre, almost 22 acre parcel, even subtracting off road right of ways and everything. 1 acre per home, I'd probably get to at least 80 feet. And I thought that 18 is not what we want to do. I'd like to make this as mild as possible, because I'm not just grabbing the maximum density. So that's why I put that in there, to convey my intention. I find that what I'm really trying to do is somewhere in between ag and density residential. I wanted to run the in between, it's actually closer to that. The second condition is in writing that we would be committing to preserving 50% of the land. I'm not just saying that you want, and we've been saying it for years. You know, probably with the open space, I think that seems to be the vehicle to do it, but give this question. It really handy to ask for any change in that. I believe in ag very strongly, as a land use. I also believe in the homes, I also believe in what it takes to create a really effective, cohesive community, one that can serve as a community together with people and also integrate with the farm, having enough people basically working part-time on the farm. That's the reason why I like it, but I wish that ag could be tweaked, get a little bit more. It doesn't sound like a lot more, I mean, you know, 9 or 10 units going up to 12, it's like, what's the big deal, right? I kind of asked before that, that's the deal, right? But for us, it makes a big difference. If you think about a community of people, and if you found out it might only be 9, you thought all along at 10 is what we were working on. And I've had private conversations with people saying, oh, if we get this other stuff, then 10 would be okay. I don't even know if it's 10 on the end of the baseline. And that's what, you know, I'm saying. I couldn't see it going on 9. Maybe not. But that's the motivation. And that doesn't mean you have to prove it, I just explaining why I did this. My original intent was to get an effective fourth PDO and not do any research. You know, without a density farm. Right now, I don't know how effective PDO. There's so much stuff that's left in the discussion in the planning. Many of which could raise the cost per resident dramatically, depending on which way to go in the planning site planning. I actually don't know if I mean, it's a big part of it, yeah. I would never say that. But anyway, so that's one point. I went on to be too long with that. But I just wanted to let you know how mild this design is. Mild is possible that. If there was any reason that could ever happen in this town, this would be the mildest, almost the mildest we could imagine. And I wish there was some way to go to bring it back to ag and too. But I can't. I don't know do it. It might make everything non-conforming. If there was a way to bring it back to ag and do it, I would pay the $2,500 and $19 application just to do that. Just to bring me back to where I need to. What else? I want to make a comment about the planning commission process. Okay. And it happened on December 15th. And I think there's something I'm finding about it. I think it was a serious and flawed process. To the point where it's not clear that every member of the planning commission actually voted on a condition when he voted. 3 statements were made. In the effect that the conditions needed to be disregarded. And I interrupted the meeting at one point. I mean, I was out of order, but I interrupted the meeting and said, no, that's not true. You have to consider the commission as part of the application. And the same statement that we have disregarded again after my question. I know at least 2 of the planning commission members understood correctly. I'm not sure what I got it. No, I don't know if you believe that the planning commission had actually fulfilled its responsibility to give a recommendation on this application. I'm not sure if they have to say that. It's a big question. It calls in mind the literacy of the process. And I'm not criticizing anybody on the planning commission person. I'm not saying anybody is friendly with this. I'm just commenting about what I said. The actual comments of substance on the application, I hope you read my letter too. I'm biased, but I didn't see hardly any comments itself that would argue against approval. I know what the decision was, but I think very good. So I hope you look at those with the eye too. As far as what we do tonight, of course, you are elected representatives. And you have many offers you can take, of course. The main one is you can go to the food. I don't want to got you all know that. But there's some of the other options that I believe you have. I'm not telling you what options you have. Like I think you're testing exchange and planning commission. About that. But if some of the options that you may have include my consent, I would probably give consent to some other things, like if you wanted to reopen the conditions and possibly negotiate them, modify them. I would probably consent to starting that process. If you wanted to put this aside or table it for a period of time, which is perhaps until I get a chance to submit a site plan. If all this stuff hinges on whether the planning commission would approve of these regular ag site plan, I don't know. That's why I'm keeping this alive. But if there's a sense that you'd like to delay things for any reason, or send it back to the planning commission or whatever, if you might consent to it, I probably don't. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I wanted to address people who, I've said all along that I wanted to do it, and I wanted to explain why I directly down to those. Thank you very much. Thank you for honoring this meeting.
Any questions for Patrick? If not, then, Randy? Yes, sir.
The memo from Bob that he sent us. Oh, I thought, wasn't there? We've done that every other time.
She has provided motions in the past, but I don't think that there was one provided this time.
At the end of the
Oh, it is
memo,
at the end? Oh, very good. I'm sorry. I missed it then.
We move that the township board convene in closed session under section 8(1)(h) of the Open Meetings Act. Consider material exempt from disclosure by state statute, section 13(1)(g) of the Freedom of Information Act. In a letter from its attorney dated January 9, 2023. For the reason that the letter is exempt from disclosure under state law due to the attorney-client privilege. Moved and supported. All in favor?
gotta do roll call.
Roll call, Sandy?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Yes. Amanda?
Yes.
Kurt, yes. And I'm sure who this was. And then, we'll have Rob call in on.
Set up the meeting. I'm actually not, I am not, I can't even participate in discussions, so.
We answer my phone.
You want me to do that? So I don't read this. I'm gonna turn off for recording of those. Would be more. Hello. Yeah. Oh, okay.
One of the things about it's in that big long highway. The grass is really- Oh, no, that's not what I'm saying. One spot. think it's actually. It's like the you. I'm gonna do the side of it. I'm fine. I'm gonna see all that. Like you know, most of the time. You look around and all that, like, what's probably happening is not. My neighbor to the north. But simply no place. They have nothing planned. They make it so. So helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So the three legs is the opposite. It's an off.
Not. It's amazing. And now they're So it's like the other guy. Yeah.
First, he said he wanted to be heard. I'm not even going that far. You're having a hard time. You're thinking about doing that. That's. Kind of like the speak. You know, it's like. But. Yeah, people know me, people know me. Right. Definitely can't just get my actual budget. I didn't have this. But I don't know. That was a problem around here. Yeah, in fact. That's one of the reasons why. If you go down there and. Eventually they moved. And they, I never, I didn't find. Somebody called and said, oh, they're not. And they were supposed to like, like, we're done. Yes, we're done for 3 days. And yes, good. Definitely. He's worried one time. Yeah. Yeah. Shut it down. Shut this off. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, we are Back out of closed session. 33. So, the paperwork that Patrick provided is very detailed, and in there, you did list that this was a conditional rezoning request. And it looks like the planning commission did not maybe follow deliberations accordingly. It's not clear that all of them. Correct. So what I would like to do is I'd like to move to direct the planning commission to deliberate the 5601 Conway Road rezone request. And take into consideration that it is a conditional zoning request.
Awesome.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any additional discussion? The roll call. Sam,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Kurt, yes. Motion carries. And with that. back to you.
All right. Thank you, board, and thank you, Kurt, for handling that portion of the meeting. So that was the last business item on our agenda. It brings us to our second public comment of the night. Any other public comment today? Yes, David.
Just a couple of quick things. One, and I don't know how you can take these notes. That person that. So I would hope that maybe in the future. That's like. You know, Dragon Naturally Speaking, it's a program for speech to text. Or something that would allow you to be a participant and not have to take these notes. I appreciate that. But, and I know it's not usually necessary to have detail, but it's really very, but it shouldn't. All boards I've done, you know, you decide that. And secondly, I don't know who, or somebody can put, and, you know, it wasn't somebody's ear about, sewer water board. That's in putting stuff online again, that hasn't been updated since June. And that's, I don't know, there's a bunch out there that just follow up. So. I used to be on that board.
I'm being quarterly now.
Oh, okay, well, let's read the minutes first.
Okay, good to know, thank you. For bringing that to our attention too. Any other public comment?
I just have a suggestion. If you decide to put the, meeting on YouTube, you might want to say that this will be up for however many days, because otherwise I think it would get.
Take something on us. Yeah,
Yeah, because especially if it's longer meetings.
that's true. Maybe multiple meetings or something. Anyone comment on that? Board of Trustee member comment? Oh, yeah. Yes, Sandy.
I actually have three things. One of them was I had hoped to bring like a resolution tonight to form a committee to study the ordinance, the open space, what very long and came to talk to us. Well, then I found out, oh no, we have to have an ordinance ourselves first. So the first thing we have to do is get an ordinance ourselves. This is what Dexter did, but they're following the law, so. Which I'm sure is going to take forever, as it always does. But I have two that I'm going to email you. One is from Dexter Township to the board, and the other one is from Bridgewater Township. So that you can look at what their ordinances are, and they're different because apparently in Bridgewater Township, there might be Civil War sites and brown barns and things that they are gonna be looking out for, because it's different there than it is here or in Dexter Township. So I'm gonna email that to you, just have a look at it. Because then at our next meeting, then I'm gonna suggest that we need to work on that. The other thing is, I really enjoyed looking at the survey from Lima Township. And it's like, so is it dispersed per household or per resident? Because I noticed that on the age thing, it said, and had every age group except, but that said under 25. So I mean, if you have a really astute 15-year-old, are they permitted to
Participate, I'm not sure, I haven't had enough follow-up
Oh,
discussion
right.
with Lima.
And I want to make sure that,
Is that, you said that yesterday, we handed her that hard copy from.
Okay, yeah.
you know, they're great questions, but I want to make sure that we run these by our attorney, because we don't want to load the questions so people come toward a particular answer. And I haven't worked on a survey in I don't know, 40 years, but I know that it's possible to come up with the responses you want by loading the questions. So you want to make sure that the questions are neutral. And I'm sure the Michigan Township Association also has some, you know, making sure that we run by the attorney, whoever in his firm, make sure that the surveys are neutral. And then the final thing I want to say is, you know, I am happy to talk to anybody. My email address is on the website. Send me an email and we can, I prefer email, but you know, if you want to go for coffee, I can do that too. But I just want you to know that, I mean, certainly we all come into our positions with kind of a thing in mind that we want to accomplish. I'm happy to talk to you about that. That's it.
Thank you, Cindy.
If I can get, I don't know if there's one that would like to address this, but what is the use policy of this year?
Well, I think we have a policy that says we don't rent this room. But the use of the room, I mean, that, I don't know, if we're not renting it, is there technicalities there? I don't know. You know, and I think if it's for a township involved thing, it would probably be okay. But yeah, definitely, we need to be someone here who could open up and close up the, make sure. So,
Yeah, that's what we did with the project.
right. So it seems to be the season of meetings, and I apologize for that, but I sent an email to the board too, where, you know, our fiscal budget year is, ends March 31st. So we would like to have a budget in place April 1st, so we can write checks and pay people and all that good stuff. So if we're gonna have it in place on April 1st, we would like to pass it in March. Ideally, we would have it here for you in February to do a public hearing. Get the public's feedback on our budget, and then pass it or amend it or whatever we want to do in March, so it's ready to go. That's a tight timeline right now. I have talked to all the department heads here about their departments for budgeting. So the clerk, the treasurer, the assessor, DPW, everybody's doing their parts in the place. I would like to have a special meeting with the board so we can go over that information and the things that we can, any determinations about, you know, salaries or anything like that. So I think I sent it out to everyone. I don't know, maybe could we do it 2 weeks from now? Because then it would still give us two, like it would be. Okay, well, I'm just gonna mention this tonight. I think 2 weeks from now might be good. The 24th, it would allow time for people to get their information to me, put it in the, you know, semblance to bring to you. And then give us a couple weeks before February meeting. In case we need a follow-up meeting, whatever we need to do. So it's a little aggressive timeline, but I think we can do it. Many of us have been through this budget time and time again.
Evening.
We could do evening or whatever. I was thinking evening, but we could do. I mean, a daytime, if it's a work session, you know, we would just be talking about. The budget. It's a Tuesday. I'm just plucking that from the air though, if it works better. Another day. I'll send an email. I'll send an email to everybody about that and we'll nail down that date. But I want to let the public know that's, we're thinking about it and that's our timeline. And hopefully you can stick to that. If we need a special meeting in there, we'll do that then. Any other board of trustees? Comments, concerns? All right, I make a motion to adjourn at 8:44. Thanks, Rob. Motion made, support by Rod, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Thank you.